Welcome to our roundtable discussion. My name is Winfried Muehling. I'm the General Manager of Carton, the European Association of Cartonboard and Carton Producers. We will cover today the contribution of cartonboard packaging to the circular economy, a very interesting topic. We will discuss the role that fiber-based packaging takes to support the ambitious targets of the EU Green Deal. Joining me today during our discussions will be three panelists. The first panelist is Tiina, Senior Vice President, Sustainability Division Packaging Material from Stora Enso. Tiina comes with experience of more than 15 years working in the sustainable business environment. She has a rich background in R&D on bio-based products and processes. Our second panelist is Monika, Romenska, Regulatory and Public Affairs Manager, EXPRA. Monika has worked in a number of senior positions in public administration, local authorities, and industry organizations. Since 2014, she has worked at the Extended Producer Responsibility Alliance, EXPRA, based in Brussels. Our third member, the first gentleman to look into it, is Klaus Hockl. He's founder and managing director of Cardbox packaging. Klaus has more than 30 years of experience in our industry. He founded Cardbox packaging in the year 2012. Before, he was working for Borealis and Man of Packaging in senior management positions. Last but not least, I want to introduce Elisabeth Skoda, editor, Packaging Europe. Elisabeth is an experienced journalist, editor, and podcast host with more than 15 years of experience in the packaging industry. Elisabeth kindly joins us today as our moderator and kick off our discussion.
Yes, thank you very much, Winfried, and yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to host this panel discussion. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the discussion yields today. So, like you said, yes, I'm one of the editors of Packaging Europe, and just a quick word about Packaging Europe, for those of you who may not be familiar with it. We're the leading intelligence resource for European packaging professionals, and via magazine, website, multimedia channel, and virtual in-person events, we deliver daily news content, comment and analysis, high-profile interviews, case studies, panel discussions with leading industry players as well. And of course, we've been following sustainability developments in the packaging industry very closely at Packaging Europe. And today I'm really excited to get the fiber-based packaging perspective and find out more about the role the industry can play in achieving the concept of full circularity and ultimately fulfill the 2050 climate neutrality targets as well. So yeah, to get the discussion started, the European Green Deal obviously sets out key guidelines to ensure all packaging in the EU market is reusable or recyclable in an economically viable manner by 2030. So I'd like to take a broad view at this challenge first, and get your different perspectives as to what you would say are the biggest hurdles facing the industry in achieving this.
So if I start on this, so I would first like to start with this Green Deal. We very much welcome the objectives. They are really good. And thinking about then the, in a way, practicalities and implementation of it, one key thing is access to separate collection for all packaging. So that's really vitally important. And it's the only thing that allows recycling really to happen and also to be economically viable, which is the objective of the Green Deal. So development of collection systems in national, regional, and local levels, that's really a key for it to happen. And then thinking about the possible hurdles, in addition to having extensive separate collection available for all packaging, it's also this target of reuse. So it needs to be looked from really holistic lens. So it's not always the best option from an environmental perspective. So it should be encouraged where it makes most sense and take into account the environmental performance, including also impacts of the wider infrastructure, transport distances, hygiene requirements, etc. So it's quite a complex thing, and new systems are needed for these reuse to work. So there should be more focus on really how they could be functional and really delivering the environmental benefits, and it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. There needs to be also good definition of recyclability. So it needs to include the actually recyclable formats that are being recycled, and ensure that packaging is in practice collected, sorted, and recycled. So industry then needs to work in design for recyclability according to the definition that makes sense.
I can only 100% or 110% confirm and underline the comments from Tiina. 100% correct. We need the collection system, and this needs to be sorted out all over Europe, or all on the, when we talk about Europe, then all over Europe. And I think it's needed to have a transparent system, and a system which can be understood for everybody. We've seen over the last 2 years that many countries have applied many different rules for a certain topic, which we were going through, and transparency, I think, is key in this topic. And we should avoid that single countries are placing single regulatories or single laws, which makes maybe the European Green Deal not visible and not reachable for everybody.
If I may follow, then of course I fully agree what was said. Actually, this is also in our positions, and we are trying to again highlight the importance of environmental impact, or CO2 impact, on all the decisions and measures that the Commission is taking, because for some parts, as already mentioned, reuse, but also for recycling. I mean, first, as already mentioned, recycling, there is no official definition of recyclability. And then when we focus too much on recyclability or recycling without considering the CO2 impact, we should always take into consideration that the product goes together with the packaging. So if it's not functional, the packaging, then the product deteriorates. So this is very important to have this holistic approach and really to coordinate all the different policies, because we see in some policies that are not actually compatible. So this is one of the important things. Another very important thing that is still not fully recognized by the Commission, this is that not all member states have implemented the waste legislation. As we know, there were supposed to be certain guidelines, but they were not developed. Then the Commission started working on the revision of the Packaging and Packaging Waste Directive, but we have to have in mind that actually the situation in 25 will be totally different from today, because by then the new 2018 legislation would have been implemented, and it will be a totally different picture. So it's of key importance that the Commission follows how different member states are implementing the legislation, and also to what was said, that different ways of doing things. This might have been limited if there were some more clear guidances or implementing acts that will focus the efforts of all countries in one direction. So to avoid different ways of implementing the legislation, which creates distortions of the market.
So I just want to maybe add on one comment that came from Tiina when this comes reuse versus single use. Yeah, I think the importance of really taking a proper life cycle analysis and really base these decisions on real fact and figures, considering the entire lifetime of the package. I think that is one crucial element that I would see. And I think also what just Monika said, really trying to really come up with European solutions. I think it adds a lot of credibility towards users, towards consumers, if we have common policies in place across different countries. Whenever we have solutions that are done differently in one country rather than the other country, we are just simply losing credibility, and we are losing the understanding of consumers who will finally need to implement, and who will finally need to make things work.
Obviously, the Green Deal can also be a boost for the industry. And I was wondering, what would you say, from your experience, could be the biggest wins or opportunities in this area?
There's a lot of opportunities, obviously. And one is, of course, that EU and the EU companies coming the frontliners in innovation and innovative circular products. So really having requirements of creating products that are truly circular. That's a really big opportunity, and then of course to be successful in that and obtain great impactful results for both the environment and the welfare. The rules must be really well gauged and designed. That's very important, and Of course, there's also opportunities to improve the already well-functioning fiber recycling system. So there's a good position, a good starting position, paper and packaging having the highest recycling rate of all materials according to the statistics, and industry has already set like even more ambitious targets, like in the Forever Green Alliance, this 90% recycling target for the fiber-based packaging by 2030. So then it's very important that Green Deal can provide the opportunity to have this improved and increased collection really towards these really high targets, and that will also provide raw material for the industry. So that's also very, very crucial aspect and opportunity here.
It might be, or it is a lot easier to go from 50% to 60%, but to go from a level of 82% where we are today to a level of 90, this is tough. This is what it takes, and that we really collaborate all in the entire value chain, that each and everybody takes the responsibility in order to work towards this direction.
Yeah, I was going to say it is not directly related with EXPRA members, which are packaging recycling organizations in different member states and beyond. But basically, they are also supporting innovations in other spheres, like in sorting. You might have heard of the project Holy Grail 2.0, where some innovation in sorting are being tested. There are also other innovations, for example, in separate collection. A small country like Malta, for example, is using Internet of Things regarding emptying and servicing of the containers where packaging are separately sorted at source. So innovations in digitalizations are another perspective that I think will be promoted by the Green Deal, and that we will move forward, because as already said, to reach the new targets, but even some countries go beyond the minimum European targets, we will require a lot of efforts and thinking out of the box and innovations in order to be successful.
We have seen that the Green Deal has made an extremely strong boost for the innovation of new developments of fiber systems, of coatings and packaging solutions which are more sustainable. But as you said already before, it has also a very strong impact on the development of new collection systems, which is also mandatory for the success of the Green Deal. And end of the day, we need not to forget also the consumer, because I think it's also extremely important that we keep it simple.
I think this is the most critical, actually, yeah, the consumer, to really have a credible, easy to understand system in place. Yeah, because if the consumer doesn't understand it, he will not do what we want him to do. And for this, we really need to keep it as simple as possible. But this is also, of course, our responsibility. That is an example what we just had in the recent few weeks, the Forever Green guideline, really defining at a very early process of the design process of a packaging material, looking already what does it take in order not to generate any problems at the very end of the chain when it comes to recycling. And having a standardized solution in place here where every producer of cartonboard or carton material follows, I think this is one precondition to really keep things simple, yeah? Simple, and as Klaus said, easy to understand for the consumer. Because if you make it too complex, the whole thing will fail at the long end.
So wanted to sort of dig a bit deeper there and ask for your different perspectives on what you think is required for the guidelines to be implemented and embraced by the industry. And how the challenges for this differ at each point in the supply chain.
We need to start from the products and their end uses and understand the complexity. So packaging is there in order to protect the product, and the requirements for that functionality is kind of the starting point. So we have packaging for demanding food contact. We need to consider the shelf life, the mechanical stress and wearing that the packaging will need to handle, all of that. So therefore the rules must be practical in the sense that they need to be adopted to these different products, end uses and value chains in packaging. So different solutions fit to different needs and end uses in relation to the materials used in the manufacturing, how the design goes, and of course the end of life. management. And considering this complexity in the guidelines, it's quite important that there's also involvement of the industry in thinking of these topics. For example, as mentioned, the Forever Green industry design for recycling guidelines, industry is actually recycling the fiber-based packaging, so there's best understanding of the actual technical requirements for any packaging to be recyclable. So really, I think it has been a lot of value in this Forever Green to have over 90 companies along the value chain, and experts really working on these details, because we cannot escape the complexity, and I think that's maybe the dilemma here, that we need to keep it easy and understandable for the consumers, but then we need to handle all the complexity within the value chain and industry to make it work. So we have these two layers that need to work well together.
It's difficult to say something after Tiina, because I can only 100% agree once again. It has to be simple. It is complex. Food safety is mandatory, for example, in many of our applications. That's for sure. And maybe it's better not to find a new solution if you're not able to achieve food safety, to be honest. End of the day, I think it's important for our credibility to bring packaging to the market and to the consumer, which fits best for its application and for its purpose. Meaning, not every application, not every packaging has to be mandatory a fiber-based packaging. So I'm really convinced that also our colleagues on the plastic have great applications and great developments. And I think this will help us and to support our credibility and to be successful with our fiber-based solutions as well.
I would just like to add on this what Klaus said. I think it's not a discussion of replacing for replacing's sake. I think it's a discussion of where is the best packaging solution available to fit the requirements of the product that are defined by the product at the long end.
Yeah, I mean, you alluded to it before. There is still a lot of variation to how packaging is collected and consequently recycled across the EU. And obviously, an EU-wide collection system would be able to address this issue. And I was wondering, in your opinion, is such a waste collection system realistic, and what would be required to achieve it, and what benefits would it offer to the industry?
We believe, and I think that it's shared by other stakeholders like Municipal Waste Euro, but also the GRC, which are working on this, that this is a very ambitious objective, and I mean, there are specifics in waste management in different countries. What can be eased, or what can be easier for citizens, but also for the process, could be harmonization of labeling. So when it's clear for the consumers, then it's easier to have more high quality sorted material. But somehow the working solution that we believe will be successful is to harmonize the pictograms, and then that will be easier both for the sorters but also for the citizens. Of course, the efforts could be more in improving the existing collection systems than changing drastically the existing.
I think looking at the discussions we have on EU level, I would say it's not really realistic, yeah? But I think it would still be desirable. Just when we look at the separation as part of the collection process, that you separate fiber-based material from any other garbage. I think this would be a fundamental benefit that I would see, and this no matter in what country you would be looking into. Because I mean, you get the quality out of the recycling process, the better quality out if you get a better quality in. Yeah, and I think that is what I would see as a core benefit, as a core requirement, the separate collection and making fiber-based material available separately.
Absolutely, I totally agree that in a way, keep it simple, keep it local, and focus on the impact. So in order to make the separate collection targets work, it needs to be easy for the consumers to understand and follow, and exactly this labeling and conveying the right information to consumers is the key. It doesn't mean that the system needs to be exactly the same everywhere, but maybe there can be this harmonized whatever QR or other codes in addition to other information on the backs, so that it would be really easy for the consumers to know where to put it.
Yeah, it's in most countries, paper and cardboard are collected separately. So this is kind of the model. There are very few exceptions, I would say, and they're changing. Like in Greece, they have recyclables and garbage. But yeah, I think this is the solution. And yes, the paper, well, the papers are not considered, newspapers are not considered, or magazines packaging. So if in case they are collected, they when reporting, they are reported separately, because otherwise you cannot reach, I mean, you cannot report the target. So this is done at some stage of the process, but of course it will be best to separate at the very beginning. That's for sure.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you've already talked quite a bit about the importance of sorting, and I wanted to dig a bit deeper there and ask you, what do you think, what role will separate sorting have in driving the ability and the quality of recycled raw materials? And also, how do you see the role of the European Commission there, and for it to embrace this within its new waste collection plan? I don't know, maybe Monika, you have some thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, it's, you know, somehow the focus is so much on plastic, so we kind of, you know, think in silos, because there is a big problem, basically. I mean, your industry is somehow, you know, the good one, so it's complicated, and almost all countries, paper and cardboard are being collected separately, so somehow this eases the sorting. So far, there are no we have not noted any specific problems in this. Of course, the idea and what we support our members to exchange best practices is to how to improve, you know, the percentages, so the sorting losses to be minimum as possible, and at the same time to have high quality material, because the pulps, so the recyclers of paper and cardboard, of course, they have their standards, so they accept respective quality of collected paper. So yeah, transparency and traceability of the packaging, I think, is the direction in the future, how it will be done in the best way, of course, during the sorting process until the recycler.
Yes, I agree. It's very important, and you really cannot recycle what you don't collect and sort properly. And this really ambitious goal, 90% recycling for fiber-based packaging, it cannot happen without really high separate collection rates of post-consumer packaging waste, and it's only needed for creating this critical secondary raw material to scale up recycling from the current situation even further, and not to lose any valuable raw materials. And one thing there, I think, when really going to this really high 90%, is that it should include also other consumption than at-home consumption. So also out-of-home consumption, on-the-go packaging, that also needs to have access to separate collection infrastructures in order to meet these really high targets. So I think that's quite important. And another element which is important to keep in mind is the quality standards. So now when going towards really high recycling rates, the separately collected like fiber-based packaging waste, then to meet the quality standards, so that the quality of the waste streams allows the efficient recycling with yields and cost-efficient processing and all of that. So this is something that is also important. So in that sense, the separate collection target can also help minimize this waste contamination, so that there's as valuable raw material to the industry as possible, and that can be kept in the loop for as long as possible.
I would like to reuse a sentence Tiina said before: you cannot recycle what you haven't collected before. I think that is all. that says is all. You need the consumer. We can dream about and investigate about the collection system, and we can invest billions of euros into the system, but we need the consumer.
Absolutely, yes. And I was wondering, obviously we've talked about sorting and collection, and fiber-based packaging is recognized for its high recyclability, and there's new research stating that the fibers can be recycled more than 20 times with little or no loss of integrity. And do you think in this context have perceptions of carton boards changed, or will they change within the eyes of brands and maybe as well consumers? I know it's already got quite a good perception, but yeah, I guess is there has it changed even more, do you think?
Fiber-based packaging is seen positively due to this recyclability and knowing that fiber can be recycled many times, and with the recent studies up to 25 times, and having this highest recycling rate amongst the packaging materials. So in a way, hopefully brands and consumers see, and it seems to be the case, that that fibers are really a highly recyclable material, and packaging being discarded doesn't mean that it's the end of life for the fibers. On the contrary, then it's only the raw material for the next cycle. But one thing that also needs to be kept in mind is that also fresh fibers are still needed in the loop. Fibers can be recycled many times, but you need to inject some new fibers into the system throughout the loop to keep the properties, etc. So both recycled and fresh fibers are needed also in the circular world. And for example, at Stora Enso, we can offer both to our customers. So depending on the customer requirements for the packaging material and the requirements of the packaged product, etc. So that's also something to keep in mind also in the circular world.
When we are talking about reusing, yes, we are not a reusable packaging system, but just you mentioned the figure, the 25 times, so the fibers will be reused minimum 25 times. I think that is a very valid and very important message that we can also use, pointing out towards the circularity, and also pointing out to the importance of making this fiber material as natural, as clean, available for the recycling process. We made some consumer studies, and they clearly show the importance. More than 60% of consumers will look at the sustainable impact, the environmental impact of the purchasing decision they make. So the packaging being the first touching point for a consumer at point of sales, it is a very critical moment for a decision making to buy or not to buy a product.
Yeah, we are achieving this very high recycling rates because we have a brilliant product in hands. The consumer and industry is accepting fiber-based packaging as a more and more as a good way for packaging solution and a good way to achieve sustainability. We need to be also transparent in our communication in order to justify the credibility what we get from the consumer.
Obviously, cartons and carton board have been growing in popularity, and I was wondering if you've noticed an increased interest maybe since the introduction of the European Green Deal.
On one hand, what we were just discussing, a certain consumer preference for the natural materials that should create, and that does create, a consumer pull, a consumer demand that are looking for packaging materials that are truly recyclable. And when I look at the retailing side, I think in UK, we all read about these examples of plastic-free aisles. Yeah, also this, of course, was done for a certain purpose. Yeah, because it was realized that the consumers are demanding certain things, and that is the preference is going away from too much plastics. It's moving towards cardboard material. I think this is what we can truly see. And of course, also the challenges that the brand owners are facing. We all remember the pledges, the 2025 pledges that each and every brand owner does. I think it is maybe one of the biggest challenges that a brand owner today has to face. It is make sure that he brings his products on the shelf in a packaging material where he will not have a negative impact on the environment. That is the single biggest challenge today, and maybe one of the biggest risks to be attacked by consumer organizations or by consumers in this direction. So I think it is definitely keeping everybody busy, and this year 2025 I think that is a big challenge for everybody to really meet and make sure that by 2025 all packaging materials will be recyclable. That we have out in the market. Yeah.
On Cardbox packaging side, we see a very strong interest in our products. We see it with our spoon, with our cardboard spoon, where we're using an alternative to plastic spoons used in yogurt cups. We see it in the strong interest in the development of our coatings for different applications. And yes, we see it also the way of innovation, way of development projects. And the cooperation has changed because we are a mid-sized company, but even the very big brand owners are reaching out to us and asking us and inviting us to participate for development projects. So yes, the interest for the whole industry, the interest of the consumer has changed dramatically in a positive way. Fiber-based packaging is really top, and now we have to fulfill the needs of the consumer, and we need to bring solutions to the markets.
Yeah, adding that, yes, we also see very strong interest in this. And there's many end users with a lot of possibilities for replacement. And it's also, if we think about the approach there, it's quite specific to end use and value chain and their functional requirements again. So always assessed case by case, and also as a collaboration. So we, for example, have these design and sustainability services in a way hand in hand, assessing case by case with brand owners how to best replace, how to design fit for purpose, like technically, but also from sustainability wise, helping customers meet their own sustainability commitments with the fiber-based packaging. And I think one additional flavor here is this, as we mentioned, this recycling and circularity being a very local thing. So in practice, we look at that for a given customer, how to design for recyclability and circularity in a given market where the product will end up with. So having really granular information on the like collection and sorting and recycling systems in each country to understand how to best design a new format for that given country so that it's fully recyclable and added as much value in circularity as possible. So there's many areas of work, including the design for recycling guidelines, collections and sorting guidelines, and also the recyclability evaluation protocols. And the work takes into account these, like how do you design for recycling for the kind of standard recycling process, but also how do you design for the so-called special recycling process where the recycling process can very well handle the also the like barrier coatings, etc. So then it's also kind of this system level thinking that the right material goes to the right place and to the right recycling, because the barrier coated packaging can be very well recycled in the systems that we have already at scale in Europe. We just need to make sure that the collection and sorting system handles the products properly.
So yeah, obviously we've alluded to fiber-based packaging maybe being able to replace other packaging materials such as plastics, but obviously we've also mentioned that it doesn't always make sense to replace just for the sake of replacing. But yeah, I was wondering, do you have any examples for innovations in that space, and what would you say are the challenges and opportunities and also limitations of making such a switch?
I was already mentioning our cardboard spoon, which we are using especially for yogurt cups. Yes, this is in the market now for 1.5 years, more or less, and quite successful. We also have different eco trays in place, which we're using in the Austrian market, for example, for herbs. Which were substituting plastic trays. We're working with our different coating developments in substituting carton board, which is laminated with PE. This, I would say, is achievable by our coatings in terms of grease resistance or grease barriers in terms of frozen food products, in terms of water resistance. But of course, our goal is to go further and to substitute even in maybe not today, but in the future, PET laminated carton board. This is what we are, yeah. For this we are here for this kind of developments, and I hope that we are able to bring such products on the market in the forthcoming years.
No, I think it's in many times not the real high-tech boards that we are thinking of. Yeah, it is what Klaus just mentioned. This the spoon made of carton board, folded in let's say the high-tech that I would see here. It's the way that it's folded, but it's something that is really a new application that you haven't thought of before. Another example would be the multi-packs of the 6 packs of cans. I think we all knew for the past decades a 6-pack of can that is in a shrink foil or that comes with a plastic ring on top. We see it now more and more applications that you have the can, the naked can presenting itself on the shelf, and then you just see a little cardboard on top holding the cans together. I think it is very often the applications that we detect as new ones. Yeah, I think the next level would be everything that is, let's say, a tube shape. Yeah, so if I go to cosmetics aisle today, there is a lot of plastics, and the question, of course, would be: can we look into these applications as well? Are there ways that we can look into the lipstick coming in a nice cardboard package? Yeah. Or of course, all the elements of liquids, yeah, packing liquids. You will have read about the trials that are ongoing for beer, the trials that are ongoing for soft drinks, to use fiber materials for really elements and products that are not thought of today. I think there is a lot of exciting developments that I would see, a lot of exciting opportunities for fiber-based material that going forward. But again, really important to stress, what we do not target, it is replacing for replacing sake. Yeah, really where it makes sense, where it makes economic, and where it also makes environmental sense to do.
One good area, example of like area where there's a lot of potential is that, and where we also work a lot, this innovation to have like functional barrier materials that can be lighter and reduced so that they fit to the like major recycling streams. And there it's very much discussing on the like required functionality, because for example, you need to balance things out a little. What is the life need and the functional requirement, and if it's possible to reduce that a little, maybe that allows like then opportunities to have a simpler structure that is easier to recycle. So this type of like considerations are very important, that it's really designed for the purpose, and then taking not only the functionality but also then this recyclability into account. And often if you make it more recyclable by having it more simpler structure, then you can also potentially reduce the footprint. So there's many benefits then if you are really designing for purpose.
So yeah, to kind of close the circle, so to speak, to the beginning of our discussion and returning to the EU Green Deal. So in summary, what would you say are the steps that the industry could take in general to realize the goals of the EU Green Deal?
There's of course a lot to do, and some examples from Stora Enso side. So we have set ourselves quite ambitious targets. So fully regenerative solutions by 2050, and then we are targeting like in the longer term net positivity when it comes to biodiversity and carbon, and full circularity being also our target. And then we are really focusing on some flagship projects very much. And when we think about circularity, for example, one of our flagship projects is our collaboration with Tetra Pak, where we are together investing into recycling capacity for the beverage cartons. So in Poland, in our Ostrołęka containerboard production unit, there will be this recycling line that will triple the annual recycling capacity of used beverage cartons in that market from 25,000 tons to 75,000 tons. So it will allow recycling of the entire volume there, and also some neighboring countries. So it's important really to invest into recycling and the value chain development. And that is, I think, good example also in the sense that together with Tetra Pak, we ensure that not only the fibers are recycled, but also the barrier materials are being recycled. So it's a kind of full recycling solution that significantly increases the recycling capacity. So this type of projects are vital when we are moving towards these really ambitious 2030 targets.
I think it's important to keep on going. The world will not be invented within 1 year or 2 years. The Green Deal was laid out 2 or 3 years ago as the vision by the European Union, and now we have to follow this vision, and we have to follow the path. We as a company also investing strongly in new developments and sustainable solutions. We just invested into an offline coating line just to support the development of special recyclable and sustainable coatings. But the whole industry has to invest for the new packaging solutions. We need to invest into collection systems, as we mentioned it before. And I think from the EU side, it's important, the mandatory, that we have a system, a legal system, which is clear and which is common for the European Union countries, and not that we have to follow as an industry and as a consumer in 26 different legislations.
Maybe another, we look now at the long end of the value chain. I want to look also a little bit at the front end, look at the raw materials, and then of course looking at sustainable forest management. And I think every member of Pro Carton would put sustainable forest management very, very high on the on top of the agenda today. Really, the value of forests, also as a carbon sink. I think this is something, the raw material we produce and how we use the harvested trees, that it's really used 100%. And we try to go to a zero waste already in using the raw material that we are harvesting here. And I think that is also very important. Sustainable forest management, the responsibility for creating more forest areas that will also, of course, help to mitigate the impact of the climate change.
Well, we are association, so we're not directly involved in investing in such things, but what we aim is to support members to exchange best practices and especially innovations. There are very interesting projects by some of our members, like Circular Lab by Equembes. So they're trying to see how circular economy works in one small village in Spain. So these are the projects that we are promoting, and we are also trying to support industry with our online tool. For example, we have packaging for recycling, where companies can check if their packaging in a certain country is collected, then sorted, and then recycled. So basically, to prove that their packaging is recycled. So this is the direction that we are working, so providing support and expertise mainly.
So yeah, it's been a really interesting discussion. Thank you, everybody. I've really enjoyed getting everybody's insights today, and it's been fantastic to get different perspectives. And for me, this panel has really underlined that collaboration across the value chain is so important to unlock sustainability benefits as well. So yeah, I think I'd just hand back to Winnie to sort of wrap up and yeah, give us some final thoughts as well.
Yeah, so thank you very much, first of all, Elisabeth, for guiding us in this discussion. And of course, a big thank you to our panelists. I think what we try to do is get as much impact and as much contribution from the entire value chain as possible. And I think the insights that we heard, the insights that we learned from Stora Enso and also from a converter like we heard from Klaus, that is really most relevant. Yeah, that we really collaborate as one team in order to solve the issues at hand. And I think really bringing things up on the table, discussing it openly, and defining the best solutions. I think that is what the industry needs, and that is what also the environment needs. Then I'm sure that we will be able to contribute our part as the fiber-based industry to solve the challenges that are ahead of us. Yeah. So also a big thank you to the audience listening to this roundtable discussion. And if there are any more questions, please, I can refer you to our website, www.procarton.com. You will find contact details, and we will be very happy to address any more questions you might have as a follow-up here. Thank you very much again. It was my pleasure of being part of this panel discussion. I think it was a very vivid and very candid discussion. Thank you very much to all panelists. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.